I know, I know. Before anybody says anything, I know. In my defense, no instructions. Hello, friends, and welcome to Figure Study, where we appreciate the form in Transformers. Today we're taking a look at Open and Play's Big Cannon, which is Galvatron, obviously for anyone who's familiar with Transformers. And for anyone who's familiar with the figures, you probably know already that this is a kind of a re-engineered, larger version of Titan's Return Galvatron. Not necessarily a bad thing, just a thing. So, here he is in his cannon mode, and he is a Galvatron cannon, at least as far as I know. In case you missed any of the previous videos where I mentioned it, I actually have never seen the original Transformers movie. As I've said on a few occasions, I was more into the toys than the cartoon. I did watch the cartoon sometimes, but it was more, I think Beast Wars was more what I watched when I was growing up. I don't know, for some reason the G1 cartoon didn't grab me that much, but I loved the toys. Anyway, Galvatron. Yes, we're talking about Big Cannon here, and as is usually the case with most of these videos, I've never had a Galvatron before. This is the first time I've had any sort of Galvatron in any capacity, whether it's official or third party or from the 80s or beyond. And I don't know, there's something about this guy that I really like. He's definitely got problems. And I am also going to echo what Emgo was saying in his video of Big Cannon, and that is I kind of wish that these struts could go up a little bit. Like just kind of telescope in, maybe. It's not like I have a problem with the cannon like sitting up as high as it does on those tread stilts. It's just that that particular spot looks so narrow and flimsy. Not that it's actually flimsy, it just looks narrow and flimsy. I feel like if this sat a little bit closer down or if that bit was thicker, then it would look a little bit sturdier. And yeah, from what I know, this is a Galvatron cannon. You got the big orange barrel, the big purple gun thing with the platform on the bottom, in this case treads, and then this big bit coming off the top like a fin for some reason. I don't know, but it's alright. It's weird looking. A little bit strange, a little bit goofy, but that's kind of what Galvatron was. Also not super into the obvious folded up robot arms. I kind of wish that like the forearm bits could do something else. I don't quite know what, but I just wish they could do something else. Like maybe if they folded up on the inside so that it seemed like they were more part of the cannon structure. I don't know. There's not a whole lot for me to say about this cannon mode, though I will say one thing I appreciate is because this guy transforms a little bit differently than Titan's Return Galvatron, you get these bits here that swing down and you get some really nice kind of technical details revealed in there. I'm kind of tempted to go in there and paint that so that when he's in his cannon mode it's more obvious. We'll have more to talk about in robot mode. And then the little foot there to prop him up. And the treads are nicely detailed, and the actual tread segments are painted, which is nice. And yeah, it's just this being kind of thin and flimsy looking, which it's not actually flimsy, it just looks that way. Kind of a strange bit of ordnance. Very strange looking. Kind of awkward. But like I said, that's kind of Galvatron. Awkward though it may look, it is really freaking big. As you can see here, with him dwarfing a Power of the Primes Deluxe. It is an enormous cannon, at least proportionally speaking. It's definitely bigger than I kind of expected when I got my hands on him. Alright, and that's pretty much going to do it for now, because really most of what I have to say about this guy is for the robot mode. Though I will say, looking at it from this angle, I like the color contrast that you get between this purple and this kind of neon reddish orange up on this fin here. I don't know, just those two colors together contrast pretty nicely. Anyway, let's transform this guy. here we've got Big Cannon in his robot mode, and I actually like this quite a bit. Like I said, never had a Galvatron before, and I know that the various third-party offerings definitely offer more in the way of engineering and materials, and aren't basically a slightly copied, I guess you could say plagiarized version of Titan's Return Galvatron, but I like what this does. It's a very striking purple that's probably not going to show up quite right on camera, and the contrast of that purple with the silver and the red and the dark gray, it looks really nice. I feel like overall the proportions are nice as well, though his hands are unfortunately kind of tiny. They kind of hide the tininess a little bit better if you open the hands slightly, I feel, but yeah, his hands are tiny. Not sure what they could have done to avoid that, other than just make the forearms not taper the way they do, but But yeah, like the proportions are overall nice aside from the tiny hands. I enjoy the big chunky Galvatron boots with the kind of red jewel kneecaps. And again, that purple and silver and red and gray works really well together. It's a very striking purple, like I said, which is not going to show up on camera right, I'm sure, but it's very, very nice. And yes, it's a simple transformation. Yes, it was cribbed from Titan's Return Galvatron, but you end up with a pretty darn clean-looking robot mode. Say what you will about this versus the third-party figures, but in my mind, this is actually a cleaner robot mode than the third-party figures. The only kibble you really have is the tank treads on the backs of the forearms, which get out of the way pretty well overall, and then this thing, which is like, that's nothing. So yeah, pretty clean. Not that I think it's a competition. I don't think that DX9 or Fans Toys are, for whatever reason, bad or worth less because they're not as clean as this. I just think that the cleanliness of the robot mode is like one of the high points of this as compared to the third-party offerings. And also because this isn't a direct copy of the Titan's Return Galvatron, you don't have a third spaceship mode cockpit just hanging off the side. Though I will say, while I like the look of most of this, I'm not a huge fan of the translucent orange for the barrel there. I really wish that it was painted. Like I think both the X9 and Fans Toys had like a kind of a metallic orange color for the barrel, or at least options for a metallic orange color, and that looked really nice. This is okay, but because it's translucent, you see all like the little support bits and stuff in there. Yeah, I'm just not into it. Getting in close here, you can see there is actually some nice detail on the feet that is painted. I don't know what these are supposed to be, like if they're lights or exhausts or what, but I kind of like how those are painted silver. You got a little silver on the tip there. And this nice dark gunmetal going up through here. And some nice little details along here too. I'm kind of thinking maybe I'll want to go in there and paint them or panel line them or something. And those jewels again, which look good, but I feel like there needs to be more going on in here than just red. And then the purple kneecaps, which do kind of fold up out of the way. And it's a very simple solution that they went with here, just having this be part of the knee. It's not as tidy in cannon mode, but I think in robot mode it looks pretty darn nice. Gunmetal on the waist there, and again, this purple, silver, and red combination looks great, along with these little red bits on the top there. And I like how these bits fold down for the cannon mode to just kind of extend things a little bit and narrow the body of the cannon, but then they flip up to bulk out that chest a bit more. It's simple, but it gets the job done really effectively. And then he's got these nice, pretty smooth-looking arms, little molded bits in there as well, which look nice, and a little silver in there as well. I keep saying as well. And the treads fold up nicely. Again, I just wish that they could kind of tuck in more in the cannon mode, but they sit back there pretty nicely. And then he's got his shoulder pylons, which is never a huge fan of these, but hey, he's Galvatron, he's got to have them, and I think they work. They're a lot more solid than I think either third-party option is. And I like how they're keyed in a way that the little bit that slides down for the cannon mode actually fits right under them. And then you also have silver for the collar going around there, which is very nice. And then the head, which I am not versed in Galvatron, as I've said, but that looks pretty Galvatron. Not entirely sure if that little squarish bit on his chin is supposed to be painted as like a goatee or something like that, but I'm kind of tempted to do it myself anyway. And then you've got a little bit of red at the top of the crest. And yeah, it's a very bad guy, like a regal bad guy leader. It looks good for what it is. I mean, it's, Galvatron kind of by design is a little on the ridiculous side, but I think he's an effective kind of ridiculous. I like him. He's not necessarily my favorite character, not necessarily my favorite figure, but what they did was very effective, very clean, and also pretty darn big. I mean, we've already seen him dwarfing a Power of the Primes Deluxe, but here you go again. And yeah, he might be copying Titan's Return Galvatron, but they blew him up quite a bit. And for a masterpiece comparison, just for scale, I know a lot of people have issues with whether or not this guy belongs in a masterpiece collection or not, but just for scale, here you can see him with Masterpiece Soundwave, who is slightly shorter than MP10 Prime. And it's funny, I love Masterpiece Soundwave, I think he's perfect for Soundwave, but seeing them next to each other, it almost makes his blue look a little, I guess, dull in comparison, just because that purple just pops so nicely. Not complaining about Soundwave, though. Soundwave is still fan-freaking-tastic. I'm just, the contrast between the two is definitely noticeable. Anyway, that is about all I've got for Open and Play Big Spring. This guy is, he's simple, he's derivative, he's definitely not going to hold a candle in terms of overall construction and complexity and all that to, say, third-party offerings, but for what he is, he's pretty cool. Got him on sale for $30, which is pretty much the price of Titan's Return Galvatron. This guy's pretty darn great. And that's coming from someone who's not bothered one way or another about Galvatron. The only thing that sucks is the ratchets in this one's shoulders. I don't know if it's just mine or if this is like a universal problem, but they're not the same. Clicking this one out this way, it goes at that angle, but then that's clicked out further, but then if I click it back in, then it's in too much. So it's kind of weird. I mean, when he's just posed, if he's in some kind of, dynamic pose where the arms aren't supposed to be out in the same degrees, then you don't even notice, but here it's noticeable. But anyway, that is enough about what I think of Galvatron. Like I said, simple and effective. But what do you all think? If you have Big Cannon, do you regret getting him? Do you love him? If you have either the fans' toys or the DX9 versions of Galvatron, how do you think they compare with what you've seen versus if you even, if you have it for yourself? And this is now my second Open and Play figure. We will be getting to the first one shortly. But I'm curious to know what you all think if you've ever gotten your hands on an Open and Play figure. Do you think they're doing all right? Because I think of the two that I have, both are pretty darn solid. So I'm kind of hoping that we see more from Open and Play soon, because I will totally get more. Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. And while you're at it, also feel free to like or subscribe. Any of those things would make me a happy Rob. And remember, art is more than meets the eye.